Hey ladies, this is Mocha Mommy here bringing you another video. And in this video, I want to, talk about the Cat Williams Shannon Sharpe sit down. Well, let's start with this. I've never thought very highly of Shannon Sharpe. So let's get that out right. I never thought that highly of him because he was one of the few NFL players, especially high profile NFL players, to come out of an HBCU. I mean, we knew about Doug Williams, Steve McNair, another high profile HBCU player, but Shannon Sharpe to have come out of an HBCU where so many Black women were fans, where so many Black women who supported his career and who even made his college career, as high profile as it was, not just because of his great play, but because of the word of mouth that was generated from such a small school that wasn't really on the NCAA radar. To be as disrespectful to the Black women who helped to build hype around his career and were literally the cheerleaders in the stands and on the field for him, I just always felt that he was very disrespectful towards Black women, and which is why I never really liked him. And also, to me, he was a very mealy-mouthed commentator. I also never felt that he was very intelligent or articulate, which is why when he had his show with Skip Bayless, it didn't surprise me how Skip was always using a lot of digs and undercover backhanded shade and, low-key insults, and Shannon never picked up on it, seemingly, because he just never struck me as the sharpest tool in the toolbox. Sorry, not sorry. So again, I was not really interested in watching it until I saw so many people, number one, reacting to it. And a good friend of mine told me that it was worth a watch. So what surprised me the most was not the words that Cat Williams spoke or the people he supposedly threw under the bus, but how little the general public, or maybe the viewing audience of Shannon Sharpe's show and those who are his target demographic, how little they know about the business side of show business. So one of the accusations or the bombshells that he dropped was that that when he was on Comic View, he was getting standing ovations, and then the crowd was then prompted to give standing ovations to every comedian, and that they had put in a lot of laughter sounds of laughter post-production, or how the audience would sometimes give feedback that wasn't necessarily genuine and wasn't indicative of the comedian's talent, but just something that was manufactured. And personally, I thought this was common knowledge. I thought that people knew that. So how I learned of this was like in the early 90s, okay? So in the early 90s, when you were around 30 Rock, because a lot of us would go there to get tickets to tapings of shows, on the NBC studio, okay? Conan O'Brien had started his late night talk show, and he had a niche audience, people who may have known him as a writer from Saturday Night Live or knew the improv thing. But for the most part, people didn't really know who Conan O'Brien really was. So they were kind of always had the people out there, the interns with the flyers saying, come to the taping. They'd be between 11 and 3, and you could go to 30 Rock. And the 30 Rock experience is totally worth it. I totally suggest it if you're ever near there to see a live taping of a show, because it really was a fun experience. But they kind of did flashlights when you were supposed to clap and let you know when to stand up and sit down. They had DJs that would kind of warm you up during commercial breaks to kind of get the crowd going. And, it was in the summer, when it was really hot outside, people would do it to sit in the air conditioning. So it was just ways that I always knew it was kind of, fake or manufactured in a way. Also, there was a laugh track, or my mom used to call it the laughing can, where they would supplement the audience's laughter with a audio recording of laughing audiences to kind of amp up the production value, or they would add that in post-production. And, for sitcoms and for shows that tape live. So again, I thought that was something that people knew, that audience reactions are sometimes manufactured for comedy shows and comedy specials. So when Cat Williams was exposing certain comedians for not being very funny or as funny, or having manufactured laughter or manufactured egos because of who they were associated with, or thinking that they were better than they actually were, and never being booed, I was surprised how people were surprised by that. That's kind of the thing that I took away more. Now, who he named and why he named them, I mean, I think we all knew that Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, that whole crew, Ricky Smiley, I think we all kind of knew, right, that they were in cahoots and in cohorts. What I didn't know was that their jokes were stolen. Now, I do know that Carlos Mencia had issues with stolen jokes, and he was called out, and that ended up canceling his career. But so I do know that these things happen, but I didn't know that people didn't know that comedians who have large tours do have a staff, do have writing staff, do have a crew that helps them create jokes and make jokes, and that comedy writing actually is a thing. I think some of the most prominent comedy writers have to be like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, like Steve Colbert, Jon Stewart, like, you know what I mean? Like, we knew that there were always comedy writers who helped with comedy specials, jokes, sitcoms. So the fact that he thought he was dropping some kind of bomb by saying Cedric the Entertainer didn't write all of his own jokes, I mean, I thought that was common knowledge. Again, that's something that I thought was common knowledge, that people didn't write their own jokes. I even remember, this was like late 90s. So I'm looking it up now. So it was late 90s when the Howard University School of Communications was looking to raise money because Chris Rock had invested some seed money to start a comedy writing program, simply because he felt that Black comedians, actors, directors should have access to higher quality Black comedic writers. And I also remember the same thing. We got the same phone call when Steph Curry wanted to start a golf program at Howard. So, when he put up the seed money to start Howard's golf program. So a lot of us alumni, we get contacted when the school creates these initiatives, So again, I didn't know that people would be shocked that jokes got stolen or that jokes were written by other groups of people. I didn't know that that was something that surprised people. I also wasn't expecting to hear, him comment on, how the wives of a lot of famous celebrities look the same, and how a lot of these women don't have very public personas. And, I had said that in my love and, my romance and finance, playlist, that the new divorce is going to be non-disclosure. Look at Cassie. It's not really about divorce anymore. It's really about keeping a secret about who's dirty. And speaking of that, as far as exposing some of the deviant behavior that takes place in Hollywood, I mean, I think a lot of us knew it or had seen people blackballed who had exposed it. Wendy Williams was the first person who exposed Diddy. Ashley Judd was one of the first people who exposed Harvey Weinstein. I also think that it was Joey Lawrence's little brother, the one who's dating Chili, what's his name? Matthew Lawrence. Matthew Lawrence had talked about the reason why he walked away from Hollywood as a kid was because he was propositioned in hotel rooms by very powerful men in Hollywood. And, Terry Crews and Corey Feldman, he had said, were the only people who could corroborate his stories about what was happening with people. But what I find very interesting is that if there's knowledge of this inappropriate behavior, I do wonder why, if you are aware of it, especially if it involves a minor, why are you, I guess, like talking to the public and not the police? That, not saying that I think Cat Williams is lying, because I don't think he's lying at all. But I mean, I just think that that's very interesting. I feel like it almost makes you an accomplice in a way if like law enforcement isn't contacted. Like, yes, you set a standard for yourself and you have your own personal boundaries, which I respect about Cat Williams. He clearly defined his boundaries when it comes to his creative work and his personal life. He has strong boundaries. But why not? Well, for all we know, he may be, right? He did say that a lot of his giving is in secret. So for all we know, he may be supporters of victims, but I really see people putting clips of this interview and inserting it into certain situations that maybe he may have not been implying. But anyway, I just thought it was an interesting interview. But the thing that I saw the most was, I think the thing that surprised me the most about the interview was, number one, the constant references to Friday After Next, which I didn't think was a good movie. I don't ever remember that being a good movie. As far as my thoughts on the interview, I mean, I don't see it as this heroic act. I don't see Cat Williams exposing other comedians as some sort of heroic act. I don't. I mean, I think it could have been better saved for a book where he could have better monetized it and then given it to a more select audience. I don't think this made Shannon Sharpe look any smarter. A lot of his questions were out of order chronologically. It didn't really fit the flow of the conversation. And even though you want to let Cat Williams ad-lib, I definitely felt like he took over the interview too many times. And I felt like perhaps that's why Cat Williams felt as if he let, Ricky Smiley, Cedric, and Steve Harvey lie on that platform, because Shannon Sharpe would have not, stopped it or held them accountable to the information that they were given. Just because, again, like I said, Shannon Sharpe doesn't seem so sharp to me. And maybe people feel as if they can lie on his platform because he won't catch him in it. And maybe Cat Williams, I don't know why he did explain it. He did explain he felt that as if that liars shouldn't be given a platform and that he should set the record straight. But do you think he's heroic, or do you think this is something that people in business should do? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised by people's reaction that they didn't realize Hollywood is as manufactured as it is. And that Cat Williams is kind of using that to drive up indignation. Like, I thought people thought it was fake. Like, I thought people knew that it was fake, the fake laughter, fake applause. And you have staffs of comedy writers and people who steal other people's intellectual property. There wouldn't be like unions and copyrights and trademark laws if people didn't steal other people's content. I mean, geez, wasn't Ed Sheeran just in court? And Robin Thicke, and because people steal other people's content all the time. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There was nothing that was revealed to me that was so surprising where I look at Cat Williams and I see a hero. I still don't think that Shannon Sharpe is any better of a journalist or interviewer. But anyway, just let me know your opinions in the comments. This is Mocha Mommy, and I'll see you next video.